seen this thing that Strata gave me, but it says Amish farm under threat from U.S. federal government for refusal to abandon traditional farming practices. Yep, sounds like the government. Let's take a look at this.
It's here, in this old Amish community where armed federal agents recently raided Miller's organic meat and dairy farm. The government is arguing that the farm isn't adhering to federal regulatory requirements concerning food, while the farm argues that this is just the latest attack on independent farmers giving their communities healthy food. If you believe the federal government has no place in telling the Amish how they can prepare their healthy, nutritious food for their communities, then go to leavethemalone.com and defend the Amish. Sign our petition. Thank you. The Miller Organic Farm in Birmingham, Pennsylvania, a remote Amish village, has been around for almost 30 years. The farm supplies everything from grass-fed beef and cheese to raw milk and organic eggs, to dairy from grass-fed on-site water buffalo and all types of produce, to roughly 4,000 private food club members who pay top dollar for high-quality whole food. The private food club members cherish their ability to get food from an independent farmer who isn't processing his meat and dairy at United States Department of Agriculture facilities, which mandates food be prepared in ways that Miller believes make it less nutritious.
So these people want to engage in a voluntary business transaction and go, hey, we want to get our food from those Amish farmers. And the Amish farmers are looking at the people saying, hey, well, we have the food to sell. No problem. Everybody understands there's a risk of buying food from people, even if you have FDA and USDA approval. But the government goes, no, for the protection of the people, we need to get in between this transaction. We need to make ourselves known, and we need to apply regulations to you, Amish people. That's how you lose your rights. Necessity will always be the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. It will always be the argument of tyrants. It will always be the creed of slaves. It's necessary that we get in between you two voluntary cooperative parties so that we can foist necessity on you because we want to keep people safe. Nobody keeps people more unsafe than the government, and specifically in this case, the U.S. government.
Pretends that he's preparing food the way God intended. The U.S. government doesn't see it that way. They recently sent armed federal agents to the farm and demanded he cease operations. The government is also looking for more than $300,000 in fines, a request so steep it would put the farm out of business. This is an attack on Amish religious freedoms just 150 miles outside of Washington, D.C.
Let me just correct something here. This is an attack on everybody's freedoms. This is an attack on you. I don't want to engage in a mutually beneficial transaction with Amish farmers. Okay, that's fine. It's still an attack on you, because if you want to do something without the government's permission, this is another one of those precedents they like to set. Well, if we did it to the Amish farmers, we can also do it to you people in New York City, or you people over there in Washington State, or you people over there in Texas. It doesn't matter. We're the federal government. We're here for your protection. We're here for your safety. If you give up essential liberty to acquire a little bit of politically promised security and safety, then you deserve neither. Benjamin Franklin was right.
It also speaks to the gross corruption at the USDA. As is available on the USDA site, the agency is funded mostly by the federal government, but it also receives hundreds of millions of dollars from the agricultural industry. Companies like Bayer, Syngenta, and Cargill stand to lose millions, even billions of dollars worth of market share if more American farmers opted for holistic farming practices like Miller's Farm instead of chemical-heavy, technology-heavy, industry-friendly practices, making it even more independent.
Oh, so that makes it even more clear. If that's true, the government is always in the business of getting rid of their competition. We got to eliminate the competition. To dish out special interest favors to the big pharma and the ag corporations who stand to lose a whole lot of money if we have all these farmers right here around.
Miller's Farm doesn't use any gasoline or fertilizer, and therefore the war between Ukraine and Russia isn't affecting his bottom line. He's not dependent, and he's providing healthy food to his community.
I don't believe that. I mean, fuel affects everybody's bottom line. I bet somewhere along the line they use fuel. How did they get these cows here? Well, they had calves on their farm. Yeah, but how do you get the grain? Oh, we grow all of our grain. How do you get your clothing? How do you get all the stuff that's actually on your farm? Somewhere along the line, you had to spend money on something that was based in, some fuel-based product. You look at your clothing. Look at this bottle right here. Petroleum. Look at the coffee you drank this morning. It took petroleum to bring that to market. So, I mean, no man is an island, and even the Amish benefit from petroleum products. Now, it's and petroleum itself and the petroleum business. But that's setting that aside. If they want to go as as low as they can in not using fuel. And the big pharma industrial complex and the big oil industrial complex and the U.S. government wants to push them in another direction against their will, without their consent. That's called criminal activity. If you and I foisted the same kind of garbage on the Amish as the United States government is doing to them, then everybody would see us for the criminals that we actually are. But for some reason, people have the wool pulled over their eyes, and it's not corruption and it's not criminality when the federal government does it to you. And then you got to go through the court process and the injustice system and stand before a kangaroo court, and then lose your rights and lose all your money in legal fees.
The way he believes God intended, and the government is trying to intimidate and shut it down. Rebel News will be here in Amish country at the end of the week when the farm explains to the community their next move in their fight against the federal government. For Rebel News, I'm Jeremy.
All right, so here's that petition right here. I'm going to leave this petition in the chat room if you want to take a look at it and become a part of this. It says the U.S. government must stop persecuting Amos Miller, an Amish holistic farmer, for exercising his religious freedom to grow food in accordance with his religious beliefs. Goal, 10,000 signatures. They're, about 133 from getting there. Being persecuted by the government for exercising his religious freedom to grow food as per his religious beliefs. It doesn't matter about your religious beliefs. I mean, it does if you want to talk about the First Amendment and all that stuff. But setting that aside, what if you didn't have religious beliefs and you wanted to grow food a certain way? You have the human right, not just the constitutional right, not just the Bill of Rights right. You have the human right to do that. If you want to grow food differently than the USDA says that you should grow food, or the FDA says that you should grow food, you have the right to do that. And you have the right to engage, the unalienable right. You have the unalienable right to engage in commerce with anybody who wants to buy the products that you produce out of the ground by growing your own food your way. So it's not just about religion. It transcends religion. It goes to your humanity and who you are, and the fact that nobody's got a right to infringe on your rights to do whatever you want to, as long as you're not harming, threatening to harm, or stealing people's stuff. Miller, who grows and prepares his food naturally, claims that he's been able to curb federal farming regulations by selling his food privately to members of the farm's food club. Earlier this year, armed fed, so I guess this is just saying what this guy just said. Can you imagine armed federal agents coming to this peaceful man's house who've done nothing wrong except for violate the regulations? Who does that? Who gets a job like this? Who feels okay about piling out of the van with his other armed buddies and going to this Amish farmer's house, knocking on the door and serving some kind of warrant or pointing guns in his face and telling him he's got to comply with the U.S. government? That's called zero morality.